Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about psychological astrology and ethics. And I'm Margaret Gray. I'm a psychological astrologer based in Dublin, Ireland. I'm also a practicing psychotherapist. And I'm one of the founding members of the International Association of Ethics in Astrology, as well as a member of the Diversity Committee. So I'm delighted to be here with my colleague and friend, Yvonne Smith-Tarnas.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm, as she said, Yvonne Smith-Tarnas, and I'm a psychological astrologer as well. But I also am a licensed psychotherapist and a Jungian analyst.
So let's have a look at a couple of things that are kind of really very, I think, ethically important, really some key considerations to consider in this work. The first thing is really to be aware that an astrology reading is not psychotherapy. And that kind of sounds like common sense. But I think when clients read psychological astrology, they immediately tend to assume that maybe, or they wonder if there is a psychological component to it. So they wonder sometimes this psychotherapy or not. And I know I've had several clients calling me and saying, look, I'm not sure. Do you do astrology readings? Or are you doing psychotherapy? And with some people, I do both, but I always am very clear about what are you coming for? Are you coming for a psychotherapy session? Are you coming for an astrology reading? Or would you like both? So I think it's really all about clarity. What do you think, Yvonne?
Oh, definitely, particularly if you do practice both. And if you don't, you have to kind of keep in mind that astrology can guide, it can direct, it can forecast, but it cannot prescribe or diagnose or provide interventions beyond the scope of an astrologer, which is using the planetary alignments to help guide us. But recommendations always are helpful to have as your kind of backup plan.
Yeah, I agree. That's so important.
Clarifying your psychotherapy credentials when advertising. Yeah, you want to be really clear about what you offer, whether you are a practicing psychotherapist and astrologer or simply an astrologer counselor, which has its own benefits. And you want to present it in a way that's clear for the clients that come in. What do you think? Anything else there?
I think it's like any profession, isn't it? Really always being upfront with our credentials. What is our training? What's our background? So that clients know exactly what we're getting. And we do that with all professions. So it's pretty much the same with astrology. And I think particularly with psychological astrology, because we're really offering something which is fairly specific. And similarly for all kinds of other astrologies that are kind of specific, like medical astrology or financial astrology, that somebody would assume that somebody has a background in those specializations.
Exactly.
So often we see, it's become much more common to really see astrologers advertising astrology coaching or astrology counseling. And again, just to be clear with clients, what does that mean? What does astrology coaching mean? And what does an astrologer mean by astrological counseling? And again, back to training. Is somebody trained as a life coach? And have they combined that with astrology? Or are they trained as a counselor? And have they combined that with astrology? So again, it's all about being upfront and being very clear with clients about what we're offering and what our skill set is.
Exactly. For example, coaching is often oriented more towards a specific goal that one wants to meet, while counseling is going to be working on a deeper issue that can kind of be worked through a number of sessions, even astrologically, with working with transit process.
Yes, so important, really.
So client expectations, this is basically being very clear how you practice, what the session timing is, what any further questions after the session, how you manage that. These types of things can be very helpful and help with your client understanding what they get out of it and what they can do if they need more support and how you handle that.
Yes, it's so important, isn't it? It's always about the focus being on the client and really what is it that the client is wanting and what do they expect, and being clear about that and how we match those expectations or not.
Exactly.
So awareness of diversity and oppression. This is something that's very important, of course, in the world we live in. And for me, this is also something that's very personal as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Because for me, if I go to an astrology colleague, I expect and hope that they would have an awareness of diversity, and that needs to kind of come out in the language that's used. And that really assumptions are not made around gender or sexuality, particularly when clients come to a psychological astrologer, and particularly when they come and they talk about relationship issues, but even just generally. So I really believe it's important we have a responsibility to educate ourselves about diversity and oppression in an ongoing way. It's really not something we can just do a weekend training or some training online. Of course, that's wonderful if you do it, but it's also something that we need to really keep upskilled, keep upskilling our skills around it, because it's something that is constantly changing. It's a work in progress, particularly the whole issue of language and terminology. So, and particularly in the, when we're talking about psychological astrology, when we think of the history of oppression of minorities within the psychotherapeutic world, when we think about things like conversion therapy, we really need to be able to reassure clients who belong to minority groups that we have a level of awareness that makes it very safe and comfortable for them to come and see us.
I agree, Margaret. That's so true. Another aspect of that too, I think that some of the older interpretations of astrological constellations and aspects have been somewhat dated by the languaging, and all of that. We have to bring our awareness and how to sort of bring a further opening to that language.
Absolutely. That's pretty crucial, isn't it? And I can certainly see that happening within our community, which is wonderful.
Yes. So a referral list for your clients. Now, this is going to be important, particularly if you work with a broad range of clientele. You want to have a list of referrals, perhaps of body workers, craniosacral person, therapists. And this can really extend the outreach of your practice, because not only will you be able to work in conjunction perhaps with some of these people, but by referring, you also educate yourself to how they work, and you become a sort of a resource all the way around, not only for your clients, but for these other practitioners. And it can benefit everybody.
Well, it's been so lovely talking to you about this, Yvonne, and I hope this has been some help to anybody who's listening to it. And it's been very interesting. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.